Hey everyone, so I'm Psybear. I'm here at Gamescom 2025 for a interview with Maria Hamilton and Ian Hazzikostas. Would you guys both mind just chatting, introducing yourselves and what you do on World of Warcraft?
Well, I'm Maria Hamilton. As you mentioned, I'm the Associate Design Director on WoW, mostly dealing with our content.
And I'm Ian Hazzikostas, Game Director on WoW.
Amazing. Perfect. I'm sure everybody in chat already knows you both very, very well. So first off, I want to hit with some lore. I actually put a tweet out trying to get some assistance with some questions, and a lot of people were chatting to me about non-Blood Elf related characters that are going to be featured in the Midnight expansion story. Races like the Naga, maybe, because they have that elven influence, shall we say. What about Sylvanas? Like, are we going to go down to her? Or is she coming up to us? Like, what's the plan with that?
Well, I don't want to spoil things. So I feel like you will see some Sylvanas at some point here. That seems very likely. I don't think you're going to see Naga anytime soon, but I'm not ruling it out. So yeah, there will be some other folks. I don't know who else you had in mind.
Like Thrall, characters like that.
Sure, yeah. Throughout the Midnight sort of saga itself, portion of the expansion going all the way through our later content releases, you'll see a variety of different characters, including Thrall. Okay,
good to know. So the prey system is this potentially fantastic new system coming in that could be really great for the low to mid core level player. What is the plans with that? Because I feel like people are trying to figure out, like, is that zone wide, continent wide? How is that going to
The system as a whole spans the 4 main zones of Midnight. You will, if you want to opt into this, you claim your contract to seek your target in Silvermoon, and as you going about your other business, whatever quests you're doing, delves, etc., you're also tracking down this target, but they may occasionally, in fact will occasionally, ambush you. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game leading to a final showdown. The intent here is really just another layer of engaging content and challenge for people who are looking for more in their outdoor world experience. Mostly solo players, folks who really just enjoy questing and spending time in the world. I think we're really excited about the multiple difficulty tiers of this system as a way to kind of add opt-in challenge into the outdoor world, where after the first few weeks, once you get geared up, it often feels like nothing really poses any resistance. That's not something that, it's something we want to definitely find ways to change.
So are they going to be, Kaiveza 2-star kind of things? Or maybe...
That's probably a bit higher than the currently planned high end, but not too far off.
Okay.
Honestly, I think the Delve Nemesis is meant as like a singular battle that's like an aspirational goal for the entire season. That would be a bit much for just your weekly prey contract. But ultimately, there should be opt-in levels of challenge that are a mix of gear and skill required to overcome them. Mm-hmm. And as with everything, this is, a new stab at something that's going to evolve based on what players want more of or want less of. We can't wait for people to get their hands on it.
I know a lot of people who are pretty excited about it, myself included, and I think it could offer some great opportunities where you have a plan when you log in of the quests that you're expecting to do, and then these can act as sort of taking you off into different paths and different areas of the zone and whatnot. So so that's really exciting. You mentioned obviously about Delves and Kaiveza and stuff. Delves obviously a new system that came in The War Within is going to be continuing on into Midnight. I think in general they've been incredibly successful. I know a lot of people who are subbed to the game to do Delves, and that is their bread and butter content. Can you talk to us a little bit about our new companion, Valeera, and sort of like how is she going to be involved in that?
Well, the hope is, of course, that she isn't quite as Bran-like, because I know the memes have gotten pretty good with respect to Bran. We're obviously trying to make improvements as we go to how well the companions react and adapt. She will have fundamentally the same kinds of abilities, just thematically appropriate to her. There's also a storyline about her. As you spend time with her, you're going to learn a bit more about her and her story, which is a nice addition. and also with the delves themselves. We thought having a different perspective on it. Brand's bringing sort of that explorer kind of little bit of humor in there. We wanted sort of a different feel for our companion this time.
Okay, perfect. So Valeera's, she should be pretty good at stealth runs, right? She's not going to be hopping out like Bran does.
Yes, in theory, she should avoid stepping in things and pulling things.
Perfect. I'm wondering about if you've developed delves in any way, I guess more from a combat sense, where it seems like when you go up the scaling into delves, mobs start to hit really hard, but they're not necessarily mechanically more challenging. Are you looking to keep things similar, or are you opting for more mechanical-based solutions to some of the combat?
I'm not familiar, actually, with what adjustments have been made to the mechanics. Certainly, we've heard this critique. We're aware. I play a lot of delves myself, and I see that difference, that jump. And they do become very, very hard hitters. But I'm going to pass to Ian because he might know.
Yeah, I think we're still dialing in the tuning, right? I think we're at the stage, still pre-alpha, where we have, we're creating the environments, we're spawning them, we're, building that out. I think when we look at the tuning, though, I agree with that feedback, and it's something that I think has a lot of potential to get away, to add more granularity and more fine-tuning, so it's not just, well, it's the exact same experience, but you get punched 3 times as hard. I don't know that we're looking to add totally new mechanics or affixes or anything like that, but there are other knobs, like how fast spells are cast, what cooldowns are, that can make things a little bit more intense, a little bit more challenging, not in addition to the numerical scaling, but kind of moving some of that numerical scaling into this other bucket to create a more well-rounded experience.
Totally. Yeah.
Honestly, we've potentially even looked at some changes like that for Mythic Plus as well. Nothing specific to announce there, but pure numeric scaling has its limits, and we want to. The goal is to create increasing difficulty, but difficulty can exist along many axes.
Yeah, I use mechanical, variation as one knob to tune, but you obviously covering some very good ones there as well. Absolutely. You speak about Mythic Plus, and that's something that I'll jump on there. You find that you go up to certain key levels and you get random damage, pot shot in Priory, for example, and you just, without a weak aura that's like blaring in your ear telling you that you're being multi-targeted, you'd have to manually be clicking different mobs and whatnot to find out if you're targeted by these things. Same thing with Easy Throw Dynamite in Floodgate. Various examples of this. Are you guys looking at tuning down some of that random instant damage that goes out?
So we're looking at a couple of aspects. Certainly, I think we've taken to heart feedback and pain points that have had to be manually adjusted. And I think you might have seen changes in philosophy to Mythic Plus over the course of War Within. We're approaching Midnight from a foundational level with those philosophies in mind. And so I think that's how polls will be constructed, that's how mechanics are being thought of. We're also looking to add more UI improvements in terms of how the base UI communicates information. So we have updates planned and improvements planned to nameplates, for example, to better call out things like critical lethal casts, where something can be flagged on the design side, where it's like, no, this is a cast that you must interrupt. It will have a larger, flashier, shinier cast bar on the nameplate, so that you don't necessarily feel like you need a weak aura or a nameplate mod to load those things in, and the game is giving you the information that you need for counterplay.
I think a great example of one of those improvements is Gambits coming back into the expansion, and Hillbrand, I think it is, the first boss, Purifying Blast used to just target players at random, and you didn't know if it was going to hit you, so you'd use a defensive, and then it didn't even target you, or you die. Now you have that red arrow saying you're going to get hit with this, and just simple things like that. Maybe you add those kinds of things, so you go, oh, I'm being targeted by something that isn't a cast necessarily, but yeah, that kind of thing is great.
I think a lot of our discussion around add-ons and how we want to evolve the game, really, it's in some ways about trying to move away from a crutch that we have relied on, where frankly, at times the game just doesn't give you enough information, and people turn to external solutions to make up for shortcomings. It's completely valid feedback that it's like, no, I just randomly died, and I had no way of knowing that was coming. What was I supposed to do about it? We should be doing something to improve the affordance of the ability, to give you some counterplay.
Yeah, and I'm somebody who is very default gamer oriented. I don't really use any add-ons for a lot of stuff. My guild actually hates me for it, but it's nice that Blizzard is going to be adding some of these things. So I'm really looking forward to the nameplate additions, the DPS meter that's going to be coming in, all that kind of stuff. Moving on a little bit more to on the same vein of Mythic Plus, but also some of the raiding side of things and the sort of more competitive content. In terms of boss tuning, I think very much during the race, we're in it right now, and guilds that aren't in the race side of things, so top 5 guilds, let's say, some of the tuning seems quite aggressive at times, where you just go from a boss like Forge Master, Araz, I believe it is, and then gets tuned, and then suddenly it's mega easy. And then for guilds fighting for world ranks, kind of has a weird effect on their progression. Do you want to speak a little bit to some of that?
Sure. I would note, I think, as of the time of us recording this, Araz is still a significant brick wall for the majority of Hall of Fame, let alone cutting-edge guilds. But yeah, I think we definitely try to strike a balance there. Ideally, progression should be a smooth experience for players of all skill levels. And you should never be in a position where you've beaten a boss and the next one feels impossible until it gets nerfed at your current skill level. And we certainly do not always achieve that, but that is what we aim to achieve. Now, when we talk about the race to world first, it's less about the race per se, and more about the fact that when we talk about Mythic, I think there are 3 or 4 distinct tiers of Mythic guilds, all of whom will ultimately, and actually if you want to include guilds that aren't ever going to finish the tier on Mythic, probably 5 or 6 tiers, who are playing at very different levels of skill, coordination, time investment, all of whom want to have a challenging and rewarding progression experience, right? And if you're facing a boss that feels hopeless, that is not rewarding. If you are steamrolling a boss that you kill in just a few attempts in a single night, that's not what a lot of people are looking for from Mythic Raiding. And so when there's such incredible variance in skill, when a group of players that are maybe top 50 in the world are just seemingly incomprehensibly good in the eyes of a rank 500 guild, yet they themselves are not even in Liquid or Echo or Method Shadow. How do we make content for all of those groups simultaneously? And where that leaves us generally is progressive difficulty with the recognition that, it's okay that bosses 6 through 8 of an 8-boss raid really are tuned for the top 5 or so guilds in the world for the first few weeks of the patch, because only the top 5 guilds in the world are going to be seeing those in the first few weeks of the patch.
Yeah.
And then, they will be nerfed after those guilds have beaten them, so that when the next wave comes, maybe the Hall of Fame guilds, they can have that satisfying 50, 60 pull experience over the course of a couple of weeks that feels attainable. Then after they've beaten them, we'll nerf them again for the cutting-edge guilds that come along, so they can have that experience.
So it is something that you keep an active eye on, and you're looking at looking at the numbers and the data and that kind of thing.
And that's not to say that we don't miss the mark there sometimes, right? And so whether it's Brood Twister Avanax, for example, in the first tier of War Within, anytime there are bosses that maybe are too easy up front, or a giant spike in difficulty that leads to a guild having that situation where they made relatively short work of one boss and then just ran into something impossible, that's a mistake on our part. We want to avoid that ever happening.
Yeah, I don't envy you guys. It's a really difficult job doing the tuning when you have so many other variables to consider, tier sets and so many different specs in the game and talents and everything. So no, I appreciate that. 10-man Mythic mode potentially
in a game with 13 classes and 40 some odd specs and counting. 10 is a challenging number for us to really tune around at a very sort of bleeding edge level. I think we've really embraced flexibility in all of our other raid sizes, but for Mythic, I think when we're trying to create mechanics that assume the presence of every class, and we're trying to create mechanics that have interesting layers, like splitting your raid up into different platforms or whatever else, all of those things kind of break down if you don't have a certain critical mass of players.
So you like 20
and
as
so
a
I think 20 is where we're likely to stay for some time.
Okay, perfect. The new tier is, I guess, a little bit of like a throwback to maybe Kata and Miss Pandaria, with sort of multiple raids releasing within a small time frame of one another. Can you speak a little bit more to the 3 raids releasing at the beginning of Midnight, and sort of what your plan is for that? How you expect the average guild maybe to progress through those?
I think, the idea is ultimately more variety and more flexibility and freedom for players as they approach their raid week. I think, we've kind of fallen into a pattern of having 8 or so bosses in a single raid per tier. And if you're a raider, that means you're spending all of your raid time in kind of a single environment that maybe can get a bit oppressive over time. We also have, more varied stories that we want to tell. And I think with the addition of story mode, we now can much more aggressively lean into tying our raids into important zone stories, because every player, regardless of their playstyle, can see them. And so, the story, the central story of Midnight as it rolls out, is going to lead us to the Void Spire, and then beyond to the March on Keldanas, and that's going to be a progression that we can feel confident in every player getting to experience. Structurally, we're thinking that Void Spire and Dream Rift will be available right away at the start when the season begins, and then with some extra story beats along the way, a few weeks later, maybe a couple weeks, we'll figure out the exact timing that's not locked in yet, players will move on to March on Keldanas. And you might think of that, if you're a raid guild, it's still a single tier. The itemization is going to be structured accordingly. Difficulty tuning will be structured accordingly. But instead of 8 or 9 bosses in one monolithic environment, there'll be much more variety and flexibility in how you approach it.
Yeah, I think that's great for the story team as well, to be able to actually tell these stories through the combat as well, and I think that's a great idea. Just to confirm, these will have varied difficulties. It will be a normal, heroic, mythic, as well as a story mode. Okay, perfect. Maria, I'm so sorry. I've got so many combat questions. I don't mean to.
You got Ian here. You do it.
So I wanted to speak a little bit about Mythic Plus. Any plans for any sort of updates to any of that? I mean, we had Resilient Keys come through with the War Within. Any plans for maybe like a solo queue up to the gear cap or something for people to maybe jump in +2s, +4s where,
No current plans for solo queue, and I think our concerns there remain that random matchmaking and queuing and difficult content that has a real possibility of failure have tended to not be a good match. They tend to lead to frustration and to toxicity. We want to do more to improve the experience for damage dealers in particular in finding groups. I think we want to look at how we can improve our group finder experience to let people find people who are like-minded in their goals more effectively, because that's what a lot of it boils down to. If you want to learn, how can you find people who are interested in learning or interested in teaching, rather than finding people who are interested in very efficiently getting their vault done for the week, who don't care about you learning and don't want you there. Mythic Plus, I think we've continued to evolve it over the course of the War Within. I mean, really, it hasn't been a single philosophy for the expansion. It's been patch over patch evolution. So I don't think we have, currently, as we sit here having this conversation, we are, 2 weeks in to the current season, to the current dungeon pool. We're going to see how that plays out. We're going to learn lessons from it. We're going to apply those lessons to Midnight. But I don't think we see Mythic Plus as like an expansion over expansion system. It's a season over season system. And so we're currently applying lessons learned from Season 2, and we'll see what those are and how to apply them to Midnight going forward.
To be honest, I think Mythic Plus is in a great state personally. I'm really enjoying it. I've had a blast this whole expansion on it, so
awesome.
I don't think you guys are too far off the mark anyway. One thing I would maybe suggest, though, is I find that a lot of the time you might be able to jump into a key, let's say like a +8, but the key in your bag is like a +2, and then you do the +8, and then it would be cool if you time a key, like the key in your bag gets elevated or something up to maybe 1 key level below what you just completed. That way you can sort of get keys that you actually care about, because you find after 3-4 days into the season, nobody's doing +2s, and everybody's trying to do heroic track dungeons and that kind of thing.
That's a good suggestion. I think that, it's mostly applicable to the first week of a season, because after that you're getting your key from your vault.
True.
But in that first week, it's a good point.
Yeah. 2 more questions? Okay. Is there going to be a Season 4 of the War Within?
No, there is not.
Okay. There's been lots of content that's sort of in the game that could be reutilized, like island expeditions, Torghast runs, that kind of thing. Have you ever thought about putting some of those in like a weekly roulette package, and you go and do, one island expedition, one Torghast run, and you get some rewards and that kind of thing, maybe for housing content?
Those are fun ideas. I think philosophically we want to make use of the wealth of content that we have over the course of 20 years of the game's history. I think that, off the cuff, my response to that suggestion would be, I think that we want to be mindful of what that experience feels like for someone who maybe never played that content back in the day. If you're coming into Midnight today for the first time and you're queuing up for something and getting thrown into like Torghast with no context for what it is or where it came from, that could be a jarring experience. But if we look at what we recently did just a couple months ago with Horrific Visions, kind of having a structured reintroduction of that system, I think that approach for islands, for Torghast, for other modes could be something that makes a lot of sense that we do see down the line. Yeah, because some of those things, like if you want to go as a new player and unlock island expeditions, you have no idea it's even in the game and how to get to it. So even just signposting some of that stuff would be great. Do I have time for one last quick one? Because I haven't been able to talk about hero talents, and I'm really fascinated about how you feel they've been in the expansion. I think the hero talent tier sets in particular are a great tool for you to be able to say, hey, we want to make this hero talent shine a little bit in various situations. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the hero talent improvements coming in Midnight? There will be a couple of nodes added to the existing hero talent trees. Paul's going to talk a bit more about that at a panel tomorrow. But I think overall we're happy with how hero talents have played out in War Within. The goal was an extra dimension of fantasy and customization that didn't add too much complexity. Because at the end of the day, it's just a binary choice. Like each of these talent trees has many components to it, but you're not moving around 10 points individually. You're just making this switch between one or the other, depending on your preference, depending on a setting. And that's something we're trying to be mindful of, because I think our game is complex, and our classes are complex. There's a lot of combinatorics there. Our skill ceiling is quite high. We want to add new goals. We want to add new power that you're going to earn as you level up. But we want to be mindful that we're not overwhelming people as we do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, Maria, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Chat, hopefully this has been a nice little interview for you, and thanks for watching.
Thank you. It's a pleasure chatting.